Let's see if this works. I've been having problems recently. There was some spook that was bothering me, trolling me online, divulged who he was, and ever since then they've been fucking around with my show. So looks like they've succeeded today. So yeah. Says it's connected. So we're going to move on with the show regardless. And if you can't access the show, I mean, you can't hear this, we're going to put up a message right now anyway. Put up a message for folks. So you might just have to wait. Got some viewers here, but it doesn't look like the stream is going, so I don't know what's going on. Like I said, I tried to run another web page and a program. It didn't work. It seemed to fuck everything up. So excuse me for that. So we're going to move along with the recording. So getting back to this NVIDIA chip story. So these Chinese spies had a deliberate and deceptive effort to transship controlled NVIDIA GPUs to China by falsifying paperwork, creating fake contacts, and misleading U.S. authorities. City Journal has the story, largest funder of Al-Shabaab is the Minnesota taxpayer, how some of the state's welfare funds ended up in the hands of the terror group. So if you didn't know who Al-Shabaab is, they are a terrorist group in Africa that go around Nigeria, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Somalia. They go around killing Christians. So the Minnesota is drowning in fraud. Billions in taxpayer dollars have been stolen during the administration of Governor Tim Walz alone. Democratic state officials overseeing one of the most generous welfare regimes in the country are also asleep at the switch. The fraud has allegedly been perpetrated by members of Minnesota's sizable Somali community. Federal counterterrorism sources confirm that millions of dollars in stolen funds have been sent back to Somalia, where they ultimately land in the hands of terror group Al-Shabaab. The largest funder of Al-Shabaab is the Minnesota taxpayer. Moving on to the Federalist. Here's why Gavin Newsom's race-based gerrymandering in California will fail. It's pretty blatant that they're using race when they drew up the new districts to get rid of Republicans. That's without contest. And I said previously it didn't make sense because the voters previously voted for a bipartisan board commission to do any redistricting. And then miraculously, Gavin Newsom puts this referendum out there and everybody in California votes to get rid of the bipartisan board for the Democrats to redraw districts. And then you have this rogue judge voting in Texas. I'm going to get to that in a second, but first I want to go to this other article, because in Texas, the Supreme Court said you can't gerrymander on the basis of race. So Texas went in and redrew the districts, not based on race, which I guess is based on race, catch-22. And then a judge strikes it down because he says it's based on race when they were trying to undo the race-based districting. Anyway, Vanity Fair, this applies to California. Rupert Murdoch's last hurrah conquering Hollywood with the California Post. California is a veritable news feast. Politicians with national ambitions, climate disasters, the twin industries of Hollywood and tech, And News Corp sees a media weakness to exploit. True. It's going to be based on the New York Post. They need a conservative outlet there. So getting back to the story at hand here, the Federalist's most blatant exercise of judicial activism, federal judge rips 2-1 ruling, striking down Texas congressional map. 2 unelected district judges issued a ruling Thursday striking down Texas's new House map, arguing the new map appears to be race-based gerrymander, which is illegal. Texas redrew its map to create 5 additional Republican-leaning seats. Notably, the U.S. Department of Justice had sent a letter to Texas in July urging them to redraw the map because of race-based districts in an existing map. When Governor Greg Abbott called a special session to redistrict, he referred to the letter. And that's when I said it's like a catch-22. So if the original map was race-based and you try to undo it, also race-based, right? So how do you undo a race-based gerrymander without considering race? Fucked up. But that's what the Democrats like to do. They like to fuck everything up. And so, like I said before, it's always this ambiguity of what's legal, what's not legal, or what's right or wrong, or calling things wrong, right, or things that are evil, call them good, and call things that are good evil, or call good people fascists or Nazis or whatever. And as much as you didn't like Charlie Kirk, he was just a guy going and talking, right? He didn't threaten anybody. He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't say anything bad, other than maybe it hurt people's feelings. And then going back to that fascist article, that's a lot of where that, from PJ Media, that fascist article, that's what they do. They reduce something from meaning something to meaning something else. It's like, oh my God, if you don't accept the trans community, somehow you're driving them to kill themselves, or, words are violence, that sort of thing. It's a bunch of gobbledygook in reference to what we understand and what we know about communication and the freedom to do so without, you shit in your pants. In any case, new article here from New York Post. Fugees rapper Pras Michael, I think it's Michelle, sentenced to 14 years in prison after illegal donations to the Biden campaign. Democrats cheating? No. Why would they do such things? And getting back to the crux of the matter, which I was just referring to, the left is nowhere near letting go of its trans obsession. The Washington Post editorial board Wednesday, in response to the Health and Human Services, releasing an updated version of its report on the treatment of gender dysphoria. Rather than take the typical radical transgenderism approach, WAPO asserted that the report leaves us all stumbling in the dark when it comes to mutilating children, headlining the piece, "What we still don't know about pediatric medical transitions." So that's carving up little children because you said that they think they're the opposite sex. The paper's editors can't help but call into question the study's unanimous obvious conclusion, that it is not ethical to subject adolescents to hormonal and surgical interventions, even in a research trial, until and unless the state of evidence suggests a favorable risk-benefit profile for the studied intervention. There never is. There never. As an adult, you have free agency. So as an adult, if you want to pay to have your privates carved up, you can do whatever the fuck you want to do. But not as children. Sorry. You have to wait till you're an adult. Over at CNN on Thursday, Leigh Asmelash was wondering, in a similar cloud of pro-trans confounded befuddlement, the White House wants to eliminate gender ideology and trans ideology. What does that mean, she says. CNN's 19-minute read published the same day as her piece, memorializing 8 trans-identifying individuals, 7 men and 1 woman, who died this year to study in transgender ideology and propaganda. With each of the men who said they were women represented angelic divas in lines like this. Tyra Broom could show up anywhere, from a seat at a church service to a nightclub's pulsing dance floor, armed with her long painted nails, shimmery eyeshadow, and colorful wigs. Then, like magic, the whole place would belong to her. The article is entitled "A Ballroom Legend, an Auntie and Young Athlete." Here's some of the trans people lost to violence and suicide. So then they can conflict criminal violence with suicide. In some states, suicide is criminal, but we go on. Of course, the article's trans propaganda would be incomplete without one of the ideology's most insidious tenets, the assertion that Trump, conservatives, religious people, and all who disapprove of men and women's sports and fail to use the correct pronouns are somehow responsible for these deaths. Exactly. The Trump administration and conservative lawmakers have taken great strides to restrict how they can live publicly and privately. That's a quote from the CNN article. The administration and conservative lawmakers are not trying to restrict how people live privately. That's individual right in most places. I don't even know, do any states still have sodomy laws? But how you can live publicly, that means if you're a man, if you're visibly a man, you can't go into a women's bathroom. I said before, if you could pass as a woman and no one's the wiser, who the fuck cares? You go into a stall, right, to do your business. If you come out of the stall and you start flinging your wiener around, that's a different story. Goes on to say, researchers and advocacy groups say black trans women like Broom are disproportionately impacted by violence. Not really. Despite providing no evidence that skin color or identity played any role in her killing. Exactly. They don't have any. And even research shows that most of the trans people that were killed because they were trans, there are some cases of that, is because they were engaged in prostitution and the John thought they were a woman, and when he found out that they were actually a man, they got violent. Speaking of sexual perversion, the PJ Media has the article, Joy Behar just put ABC on the brink of another huge Trump lawsuit. Why? Because The View's Joy Behar confidently claimed that it was obvious Trump was a pedophile connected with a convicted sex offender, Jeffrey Epstein, implicating him in Epstein's crime. With no proof, mind you, the wild accusation came without a shred of evidence tying Trump to Epstein's criminal activities. In fact, Trump is arguably one of the few prominent figures who did the right thing and severed ties with Epstein long ago, when he kicked him out of his club, etc. Education Secretary McMahon said the government shutdown proved the U.S. Department of Education is not needed. This one from One American News. So we know that before Trump's term is over, he's going to get rid of the Department of Education. Thank God. Send the funding directly to the states. Wall Street Journal has the headline, I want to blow this thing up, how Barry Weiss is trying to overhaul CBS News. The new editor-in-chief is personally recruiting potential anchors, booking guests herself, and asking staff what they do. Good for her. We've already seen evidence on CBS Face the Nation, which is the show, the talking head show I watch on Sunday. I think Margaret Brennan is at least the smartest anchor of those shows. But you can see that her partisanship has been reined in. And she no longer, first of all, the guests, she no longer has 5 liberals on and then 1 Republican. Now, the last show, in any case, that I saw, she had 4 Republicans and 1 Democrat. And she's curtailed her rhetoric, the constantly haranguing of Republicans, and then the softball massaging of Democrats has stopped. So good for Barry Weiss. I think she was she was underqualified for the position, but if she makes it more of an objective news organization, as news and journalism should be, good. Fox News has the headline, CDC quietly changes vaccine and autism stance after years of controversy. Health agency launches comprehensive assessment after years of stating no connection exists. This was a deal with the pharmaceutical companies. The claim vaccines do not cause autism is not evidence-based claim because studies have not ruled out the possibility that infant vaccines cause autism. What the evidence says is that in certain stacked vaccines, the adjuvants in those vaccines interacted together to cause autism. When those stacked vaccines were separated and given, injected over time, less cases. So there is some interaction in the body. So if you're taking your kid to get vaccine, if it's recommended or whatever, you need to go a few times to space out the vaccines is the best course of action. Studies supporting a link have been ignored by health authorities. Indeed, the agency noted that the statement vaccines do not cause autism has been historically disseminated by the CDC and other federal agencies in an effort, and they even quote here in the paperwork, there's a paper trail, the reasoning is to prevent vaccine hesitancy. Plausible biologic mechanisms and potential causal links have been established. Vaccines do not cause autism remains on the page, but is followed up by an asterisk indicating that it was not removed because of a prior agreement with the pharmaceutical industries rather than because the evidence to support it. And that's basically because the pharmaceutical industry gives the vaccines or gives break on the vaccines to the federal government that then distributes. Another article here from PJ Media. Why is Musk talking exactly like the World Economic Forum's dystopian 2030 agenda, which is coming, by the way, is because he knows it's coming. And Elon Musk has always stated, and that's the whole point with the Neuralink, if you can't beat them, join them. This is happening. Even though he warned about the dangers of AI and all this stuff. So when he was out talking about his Optimus robot, it's true. There's going to be a time where human endeavor will be rendered obsolete. So he says, but it could be a benefit to you. You won't have to work. There won't be any money. You can just sit around and drink Starbucks. And it's outlined here, CNN Business. Sales of an AI-enabled teddy bear suspended after it gave advice on BDSM sex and where to find knives. Sales of the artificial intelligent plush toy have been suspended after it was found that it engaged conversation around sexually explicit topics and offered potentially dangerous advice. No. Larry Wang, CEO of Singapore-based Folo Toy, this is probably pushed by the Chinese, told CNN that the company has withdrawn its Kuma Bear. Even the name is suggestive. As well as the rest of its AI-enabled toys after researchers at the U.S. PIRG Education Fund raised concerns about the inappropriate conversation topics, including discussion of sexual fetishes, such as spanking and how to light a match. The company is now conducting an internal safety audit. We know this is all intentional. To sexualize children, this has been going on for some time. See, the 2030 agenda, the world we're going toward is going to be full of wickedness. That's what they said about Satan. He's going to rule for a day, and that's in God years. So how long is that? But it's going to be hell on earth, that's for sure. So get ready, gird your loins, keep your powder dry. It's coming. Thank y'all. Thanks everybody for joining me today. Don't forget to engage the channel, like, subscribe, leave a comment, share the podcast. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties. Like I said, the enemies,
the tune sounds,
the folks
pretty much
in
primitive,
cyberspace
loose,
who fuck around with everything they don't like
sometimes disjointed,
are there
colorful.
around me and hassling me for my stupid little audience, so I must be doing something right if I get hassled. But it could be my own technical fault. I don't think that's the case because of the timing of how this all kind of manifested a few days after I had choice words for a certain someone. Fuck all y'all. Yeah, there are people on. I don't know if they could see the broadcast. So. All right, thanks for joining me today. Don't forget you're under attack psychologically by plush toys that are trying to sexualize your children and chatbots who are trying to fuck with your mind. And biologically, through vaccines, through the food, and other stuff. So, thanks for joining me today.
In this case, we'd like to have you understand what we're trying to convey.
We'll see you next week. Have a great weekend. Don't forget to join me Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. live stream on Rumble, other platforms as well. Respect. We'll see you next week.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
You can't handle the truth.
This is a conspiracy.
The New World Order.
You're crazy, man. You're crazy. I like you, but you're crazy.
I'm an American. I have rights.